All right, we'll go ahead and slowly get started and let a couple more people jump in as we go here. Thanks everyone for joining me before your holidays are upon us. So excited to have the people that are on here. It shows me a lot of your guys' dedication and motivation to staying on top of things and being ready for 2026. So I'll keep this quick and smooth. Today I'm going to be going over our communication tree alert system. So I'm sure some of you are ERP members, some of you are not. The goal with this is as we keep implementing more and more ERPs into our local markets, there's always these certain challenges that we have, right? And one of those is maybe the implementation phase. How many of us have gone out and implemented a plan and maybe the client didn't know how to access it or get a hold of us or it doesn't get updated, right? And now with the communication tree, we're going to give them something tangible right out of the gate. Within our first initial meeting with them, we're going to be able to set up a communication system of sorts that's going to allow them to communicate with their internal team and your team instantly. It can be done in a matter of minutes. So my goal is to kind of walk you through that, how I kind of see that, setting it up, how it works, so you get familiar with it. If you're an ERP member, it's live today. There's no additional costs, and so that's the bonus there, right? But at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is we're trying to set up relationships with these commercial properties faster and quicker. So how can we do that? Let's give them something that is tangible to them that doesn't require a lot of work and effort. So this is the dashboard. This is where you're going to have all your ERP plans. Let's go into one of the accounts here, the Texas Healthcare. And on the left side, you're going to have your communication tree. And this is where we're going to be able to go ahead and add in all of the contacts that we have already uploaded to the system. So the first thing we're going to want to do is let's just pretend we're on our first call. We're going to want to add in some vendor contacts and staff that is part of their potential plan. So if we're meeting with the facility director, we could actually have a first initial call with them and add their name to the list here. We see that I've already got a number of staff here, and I'm going to kind of walk you through how simple and easy this is by just clicking create and say we need to add in a new housekeeper. So we have, let's say Jess Evans, and this is the housekeeper. And this is us kind of working with the facility director on who needs to be notified in the event of an emergency or who might need to send out an emergency notification. And we can go ahead and fill out their information here in a few minutes and then get them added to the overall plan. Now, once we have everyone added to the plan, we can go over to the communication tree and work with our facility director on building that out with them. Now, here's what the updated communication tree looks like. We're actually able to build out a communication tree per building, and we have four different tier levels of doing that. And so you can see here we can slowly go right over this and highlight. This is also available inside the app, right? So you can actually just do this from your phone if you're speaking with the property director right in front of you. And while you're working with them, speaking with them, we can quickly add them in. Who would be the tier one level of it's in the middle of the night, we need to get notified in the event of emergency, probably the facility director himself, right? And I'll just, I think this is the name here, and we can go ahead and add that person in as the building director there. And we can continue adding in their important information. Say they have someone such as their security that might need additional information as well. And we can go ahead and add them into critical tier two. And now we're building out your communication tree for this property right here, Dr. Smith's office, as you see. Vendor and contacts, you could probably maybe add yourself as a restore and immediate contact tier one as well. But let's just say we add ourselves into the vendor specialist here. And you'll see that we've got this blue building tag here. And this blue building tag is meant to signify if they're only at this specific property for the communication tree or if they're an organizational wide for the communication tree. They should be notified in this specific tier at every building they have. And you're going to see how that plays a huge role in kind of building these out. So let's say for ourselves, we're the emergency contractor. I need to be, notified across the board for all of their properties. And we could do that here by adding myself as mitigation manager with the organizational tag. And then we have their kind of C-suite organizational leadership, which may need to be notified on certain events or catastrophic events, large events. And so we can add in someone for their tier four. So you can see how quickly that we've now done this, and their communication tree is now set up. They can come here in the event of any type of critical, urgent, or just even an advisory notification, and actually send out an emergency notification to everyone listed on whichever tier they choose, which we're going to get into in a second and show you how that works. Um, we have the ability to then build out these tiers per building. So if I go to Texas State Hospital, we're going to see that I am already listed here at the organizational level as well as the CEO, Mr. Smith. What's nice with this is that the way we've done this with the organizational tier, especially if they say they have another contact that needs to be notified for every single, emergency, and say we add that person to the tier one here. Every time we create a new building, it's going to automatically populate all of these people that are at the organizational level. So what does that mean? That means if we were to upload a list, so right now we can do a backend CSV upload for you guys, we could upload 500 properties in the click of a button. And every time when we do upload that, that means every single one of those communication trees are automatically updated with all of the correct organizational level contacts. So we can instantly create, an organizational wide communication tree for their entire property staff by doing one upload if we set up one building and set up who is the organizational contacts at which specific tier. Let me give you an example. I go over to buildings, I add in one new building. This is our third building, right? Now we have our third building. If we go to the communication tree, we'll have our third building and we'll have our communication tree already built out. This means when we're adding in new properties into the plan, uploading entire lists, we've now reduced the friction on building out, especially a communication system from days or whatever it would take to build this out to a matter of seconds, right? So now we have our communication tree set up for every future building. And if we need to add someone new to it, again, we can just go here. We can click on one new person. We need to add the security staff here. And this person's only responsible for this building. And now this building is updated accordingly. Okay, so let's say we've got our communication tree system set up. We've done this in 5 minutes essentially, right? We've been on the clock for 10 and we've added a property, we've added a staff, and now we can just show the property manager how to essentially access this and send a alert. So we'll go back here and we'll go ahead and say, okay, property manager, if there's ever a emergency in place now, how did you respond in the past? How much time did it take you to communicate with all the internal team? How did you know who to communicate with in the event of an emergency? And a lot of times when you're asking a property manager this, it's their answers are gonna vary, but it is hectic. If you've been in restoration and you received a call such as I have in the middle of an emergency, they have about 10 seconds to talk. They're fielding questions. They're trying to organize people left and right. Well, now we can do that at the click of a button, right? So within your first sit down with them, you're going to walk away with the ability for them to walk into your system and send an emergency alert again within 5 or 10 minutes of speaking with them, which is going to be really attractive and a really good, valuable deliverable on their end. So here's how we set up the emergency alert. All we need to do is go to send an emergency alert, whatever building we're in. Okay, great. Now we've got Dr. Smith's office. We've got a water issue. We can click the severity level, and then we can click which tiers need to be notified in the event of emergency. And so as we're clicking through this, okay, we need to send an SMS and an alert, and then we can, identify some more information on what is happening. Second floor leak to the first floor, and then we can describe an issue that is happening. Water coming through ceiling. Approx 5 rooms affected. Now, think about what's already happened here. Let's say they get security involved. Let's say they have the facility director involved. At this point, what I think is so nice for us to think about is if we get them to use this system and obviously integrate it into their workflow. By the time they send this alert to their internal team, you guys are also getting notified. That means we're getting notified as quick and quicker than some of their own internal teams. Because I'm already tied here to the vendors list, tier three. So as soon as they send this out to the facility director, security director of ops, I'm included in that communication. I know exactly what's happening. If I need to attach a photo, they could be on site with their phone, attach a photo of the damage so you can see the affected area, and then they can click send alert, and then we're going to receive that notification. You may want to add in multiple teammates on your staff to make sure that that's being received correctly, or have an auto SMS push system to multiple people. That might be a good idea as well. And so now, as they're responding and attending to their own crisis and making sure they're evacuating people, taking their own safety protocols and measures, as a restoration company, we're now in response mode. We've received the alert. If I'm the BDR, I'm contacting the mitigation manager, making sure they saw the alert, got it. We've got, people going to the office to pick up the truck. Okay, truck's loaded. We're in the middle of the night. What's our ETA? And then I can get that information back as the BDR or maybe the mitigation manager, and I can actually send back an advisory note to the internal team here that is managing this crisis. So now we can be in transparent communication with them and also give them that peace of mind. So I can come back here to emergency alert. We know that's a water issue. We just received it. I'm going to provide them back an advisory notification to their top two tiers, send them alert. Um, and when you get this alert, it actually shows you who sends it. So they're going to know that it's going to be coming from me, the restoration company. And so we have a second floor, as we noted. And we're just going to say that, restoration company is en route with drying equipment, be there in 45 minutes. And by the time I send this, their own internal team is going to, and some of them might not even be on site yet, they're already going to get the notification that the restoration company and the restoration response is already enacted, right? We're already executing on our end. It's going to be impossible for someone to beat us there if we're getting notified at the same rate and level that their own internal team is. And what this does also is if they're including teammates that you maybe don't interact with on the tier level, organizational leadership, if they have that tied in when they're sending these alerts, they're going to see when I send this out, they're going to see who they're using at the local level. So if we're working with, you know, uh, organizations with multiple properties, regional properties, we're now getting in front of how we execute as a company and as a restorer on a much larger level with other teammates and internal team stakeholders that we didn't have access to in the past. Let me make sure I go through all my notes here. I want to make sure I hit all my points. But that's how we're going to build a new communication tree. That's how we're going to update it. That's how quickly we can send it, and that's how quickly we can get involved with our commercial property managers now. So the goal here again is to give them something tangible that is going to help them out. And how are we communicating with them? How are they communicating in the event of their emergency? How can we make their life easier? And hopefully this helps showcase um, with really how quickly we could set this up for them and how quickly they can have an emergency communication system in place internal at their property. And no other organization, no other restoration company that is implementing this with them, right? So if you're on this call, if you guys are using this, I feel really confident that you're going to be able to walk in and deliver something that no other restoration company has. So that's a little bit of the sales aspects. We can walk in and set this up pretty quickly. The other factor is building the relationship. Once we have this set up with them, we could do a quarterly check-in, right? We could do a test alert quarterly, make sure because they have turnover and personnel just like we all do. So we can go in and do a quarterly check-in on the communication tree, make sure their personnel is updated, do a quick test alert, quick dry run, and then maybe add in any other additional info to the plan that might be necessary. So I think that covers most of it. Again, I wanted to make this short and sweet for you guys. I'll open it up to questions real quick just to see if anyone had anything. I did want to just do a quick show and tell on our AI integration as well. So if you haven't seen it, we've created an AI integration with a chat and a voice that is built. It's a proprietary knowledge base. It's the only LLM to build, sell, and train on selling ERPs, right? So if you have questions about building an ERP, selling an ERP, overcoming objections, this thing is proprietarily built on doing just that. You don't need to train one of the general models out there. For example, I like to use this example with, let's say we're overcoming an objection. We want to know how to navigate and talk to our property managers. I'm going to use this as an example. I spoke with a property manager the other day, and they said they do the work in-house. What should I do? Now, this is a pretty vague question, right? Property manager said they do the work in-house. What should I do? And so we teach this on a mirror labeling calibrated question. So you're going to get a hyper specific response. And it's going to give us really good navigational questions, what and how questions that is, to navigate the conversation to where we have solutions for them, right? And so you could do that very quickly here. And then in beta and now live, though, you can actually get a voice coach to call you and work through these things, work through your approach, work through overcoming objections. It's pretty cool. It's different. I know some people worry with the AI, but what this allows us to do is take really smart, knowledgeable databases that we have and be able to access them 24/7, right? So this voice coach can actually work with you whenever you want at your leisure and in your privacy. So let's open up real quick to this communication tree stuff. Curious to see if there's any feedback on that and implementation. When adding a contact to the communication tree, can we see the person title on the screen? So if we go back here, we actually do have the title here, which I obviously misspelled security. We have director of operations. So if the internal team, you're going to see that. And if it's an external person, you're also going to see the restoration company. So that's the title, that's the restoration company. And then internally, you're going to see their title as well, including their contact information as well. So, and even if something changes here, so let's say Ann Keith here is a staff, and say we edit her and she has a new mobile number for whatever reason, we can update that here, and it's going to update the entire communication tree. So now we can go to every building and see that her new number is listed here. Bam. When adding a contact. Oh, I see. Right now, we have it where this is exactly what you're going to see is if they're a vendor contact or staff, large organizations, sometimes you don't know. We don't have that listed inside the drop down specifically. And so that's something that we could definitely look at. I feel like as we get a lot of use cases with this, which I'm really excited about, is we're going to have a lot of internal teams and facilities that you're working with that obviously are going to have specific use cases. And, feel free to let us know what those are. This is technically our second iteration on the communication tree. We had a very standard, one tree type of model, and we invested a lot to get this done per building, organizational wide, emergency alert. But I'm sure as you get in there, and we want to make this useful for the end user, right? Because when they're sending out an alert, you're part of their workflow. You're getting the alert as fast as they are, and which is the part that we're really excited about. Um, When adding in a contact, is it possible to shut off the required fields when adding in a contact? For instance, they do not have an email address available. You can't save it until there's something in there. We stripped off a lot of requirements, Patrick, a lot when we first started a long time ago. So I guess right now you need first name and you need an email. What I would say there is just put a fake email in. The system doesn't care. You saw me put in a bunch of fake ones. Make it very clear that it's fake. info@email.com. I don't know. Put in a general one. Right now, I think we are going to keep that. What's nice too is if when you're doing this with your property manager, facility manager, and then you show them how to do the emergency alert, I would then ask them, so are you going to be the only person that might incur find the water damage, find the emergency and then need to send this alert? Well, no, our security might actually be the first people that might need to notify me. Great. Do you think we should add them to the plan, to the list, so that way they can send this out? Yeah, that'd be great. And so you can come back in here, add security, and add them as a user. And so when you add them in here, so security, oh, that's username password anyways. So we'll just pretend this is, Seth Beans security. Their user role is now created. So you could be talking with your property manager and say, hey, I just added you, or I just added in, Seth over at security. He can now log in. As soon as I click submit here, he's going to get an email with a link and a username and password to access this plan. You can show him how to do that yourself. And if you'd like, you can go ahead and add in more users to yourself so that way you can make sure you keep your communication tree up to date as well. So that's something else to keep in mind. Okay. What else we got for questions? Um, if you add other vendors, a PM uses like a plumber and they want to notify the resto for a fire, will notify all vendors to add a tree. It will notify all on that specific tree. Yes. So that's how we have it set up. That seems to be the most efficient slash standard kind of way. But yeah, if they have different vendors they want to add here, it will notify all vendors. And so, ideally, you work with them on a communication protocol, which, by the way, the Copilot can do and write for you. Right? What does that communication protocol entail? Well, should we be notifying vendors, all vendors? Should we put, the emergency staff also in immediate response? You can kind of work with them on that. It's obviously easy to set up. If they attach electrical and plumbing and it's a water issue, maybe only certain people should respond. Um, I think what I would say is I'd encourage you to also encourage them and not to be afraid of other vendors being on there, non-restoration vendors, that is. Because the more internal usage this gets and the more workflow that's like part integrated into their workflow, obviously is going to be much more difficult for them to ever want to stop using you, the restoration company, because they don't get access to this privileged system that you're giving them access to. Great questions, everyone. Cool. Well, I'm excited to hear more of the feedback and real life usage of this. Again, the emergency alert is sent SMS and email, and the email will actually capture in the photos and video that's taken, from whoever's sending out the emergency alert as well. So think about how you communicate that with a facility manager, right? They could send a photo on site of what the damage looks like. Your team now has an understanding of the area affected, the type of damage. We've all been on site where we hear about these crazy damages, and you get on site and there's no damage, or vice versa. So that's going to allow us to have a quicker response, integrated in their workflow, and better communication. And if no one's got any other questions, I'm gonna leave you guys to it. Happy holidays. I'll wrap up nice and quick here, and good luck to everyone.